Hello, and welcome to 20 Minutes with Jesus. Take a moment to settle your heart. Find a quiet place, if you can. Allow this time to be a pause in your day. You don't need to rush. You don't need to have everything figured out. This is a moment to be still before God. Let's begin. Many people enter a new season looking for signs with their eyes. They search for visible confirmation, clear evidence, and immediate results. When those things do not appear, discouragement often follows. The heart begins to question whether God is truly at work, simply because nothing looks different yet. But God does not work primarily through what is visible. Scripture reminds us that while people naturally focus on what can be seen, God looks deeper. He sees the heart. He sees intention, character, and posture long before outcomes appear. This truth is especially important at the beginning of a year, when expectations are high and progress feels urgent. God's work often begins where the eyes cannot see. Many hearts struggle because they measure God's faithfulness by external movement. If circumstances change, hope rises. If nothing changes, faith feels shaken. But God invites us to trust a deeper reality, that He is actively working even when evidence is not yet visible. What God sees matters more than what we see. He sees growth before fruit appears. He sees obedience before results follow. He sees faith forming quietly beneath the surface. When we rely only on what our eyes can confirm, we limit our ability to trust. But when we learn to trust what God sees, faith becomes steadier. The heart learns to rest, even when progress feels hidden. This kind of trust does not deny reality. It simply refuses to let appearances define truth. It acknowledges that God's timing and perspective are greater than ours. What feels small to us may be significant to Him. What feels slow to us may be perfectly timed in His plan. At the beginning of a year, this lesson protects the heart from unnecessary disappointment. It reminds us that God is not absent simply because nothing looks different yet. He is often doing His deepest work in unseen places. Learning to trust what God sees means learning to value formation over appearance. It shifts the heart from performance to faithfulness, from urgency to patience, from comparison to confidence in God's care. As we begin this episode, allow yourself to release the pressure to see immediate results. Ask God to help you trust His perspective over your own. What He sees is always more complete, more accurate, and more loving than what our eyes can perceive. Learning to trust what God sees requires a deep shift in how the heart understands growth. Most people are trained to believe that if something is real, it must be visible. Progress must be measurable. Change must be noticeable. Results must appear. When these signs are absent, doubt quietly enters and begins to question whether anything meaningful is happening at all. But God does not work according to visibility. Much of what God does happens beneath the surface, long before it is ever revealed outwardly. He forms character before He releases responsibility. He strengthens the heart before He brings increase. He establishes roots before He allows fruit to appear. This unseen work is not secondary. It is essential. Faith that depends only on what can be seen is fragile. It rises quickly when circumstances improve and falls just as quickly when they do not. But faith that learns to trust God's unseen work becomes steady. It is not shaken by silence or delayed evidence, because it is anchored in God's character rather than in outcomes. At the beginning of a year, this truth becomes especially important. New seasons awaken expectation. There is often a strong desire to see change immediately. When life looks similar to before, discouragement can follow. But sameness does not mean stagnation. God can be doing profound work even when external circumstances remain unchanged. God sees what the eyes overlook. He sees faith growing quietly. He sees obedience being strengthened. He sees humility being formed. These are not small things. They are foundational. Many hearts struggle because they assume that God's approval is tied to visible success. But Scripture consistently shows that God values the heart long before He values results. He looks for willingness before achievement. He looks for trust before transformation. When the heart learns to trust what God sees, it becomes less dependent on validation. It no longer needs constant confirmation that it is on the right path. It learns to rest in the knowledge that God is attentive and involved, even when progress feels hidden. This kind of faith requires patience. Patience does not mean inactivity. It means endurance with trust. It is the decision to remain faithful even when evidence is limited. It is the willingness to keep walking when the path ahead is not fully visible. This patience protects the heart from comparison and discouragement. Comparison thrives on appearances. Faith thrives on trust. When the heart compares its journey to others, it begins to judge itself unfairly. It assumes that visible progress equals deeper faith. But God knows that what is visible is not always what is lasting. Some growth happens quickly but has shallow roots. Other growth takes time but endures. God is far more interested in what will last than in what will impress. Unseen formation often feels slow, but it produces stability. It teaches the heart how to remain steady when life becomes uncertain. It strengthens trust so that when visible change finally comes, the heart is able to carry it without being overwhelmed. Trusting what God sees also reshapes how disappointment is handled. When expectations are unmet, the heart does not collapse. Instead, it pauses and remembers that God's perspective is broader. What feels like delay may be protection. What feels like silence may be preparation. This does not mean ignoring pain or pretending disappointment does not exist. It means allowing God's truth to speak louder than appearances. It means choosing to believe that God's work is not limited to what can be measured or observed. As you walk into a new season, consider where you have been measuring progress. Have you been relying only on what you can see? Have you been discouraged by lack of visible change? God gently invites you to trust His vision over your own. Faith grows strongest when it learns to trust the unseen. When the heart accepts that God is working even when evidence is limited, peace increases. Anxiety loses its grip. Hope becomes quieter but stronger. The soul learns to rest, knowing that God's eyes never miss a single detail. What God sees is never incomplete. What God is forming is never accidental. And what He begins in unseen places will, in time, be revealed in ways that reflect His wisdom and care. Learning to trust what God sees requires the heart to release its dependence on appearances. From a very early age, we are taught to evaluate life by what is visible. We assess progress by results, growth by outcomes, and success by what can be measured. When these markers are absent, it is easy to assume that nothing is happening. But faith invites us into a different way of walking. Walking by faith does not mean ignoring reality. It means recognizing that reality is larger than what the eyes can capture. God's work often begins long before it becomes noticeable. He shapes desires before He changes direction. He strengthens character before He releases responsibility. He aligns the heart before He alters circumstances. This process is quiet, intentional, and deeply personal. And because it is unseen, it requires trust. Many people struggle in seasons where little seems to change. They pray, they wait, they try to remain faithful, yet life looks the same. This can create frustration and doubt. But Scripture shows us that sameness on the outside does not mean stagnation on the inside. God is often doing His most important work beneath the surface. Walking by faith means choosing to believe that God's perspective is more accurate than our own. Our eyes are limited, God's vision is complete. We see moments. God sees seasons. When the heart relies only on sight, it becomes vulnerable to discouragement. Delays feel heavier. Silence feels personal. Progress feels uncertain. But when the heart learns to trust God's sight, faith becomes steadier. The soul no longer depends on constant evidence to remain hopeful. Faith that is rooted in sight demands proof. Faith that is rooted in trust remains steady without it. This kind of faith does not grow overnight. It is formed through repeated choices to trust God's character even when circumstances are unclear. Each time the heart chooses trust instead of fear, something is strengthened. Each time the soul remains faithful without recognition, depth is formed. Walking by faith also reshapes how decisions are made. When sight leads, decisions are often driven by urgency, comparison, or pressure. The heart rushes toward what looks promising or avoids what feels uncertain. But when faith leads, decisions are guided by peace, discernment, and alignment with God's truth. God's guidance is often quieter than we expect. It does not always come with immediate clarity. It does not always remove uncertainty. Instead, it brings peace that confirms direction even when the full picture is not visible. This peace becomes a signal that the heart is aligned with God, even if the outcome is not yet clear. Walking by faith also teaches patience. Patience is not passive waiting. It is active trust over time. It is the willingness to continue obeying, praying, and hoping without needing constant reassurance. This patience protects the heart from discouragement and helps faith mature. Many people abandon faith too early because they expect immediate results. But God often allows time to pass so that faith can deepen. What grows slowly tends to last longer. What is formed patiently tends to endure. God is not impressed by speed. He is attentive to faithfulness. When the heart learns to walk by faith instead of sight, comparison loses its power. The journey becomes personal rather than competitive. The heart stops measuring itself against others and begins to trust that God's path is uniquely tailored. This frees the soul from unnecessary pressure. You no longer need to prove progress. You no longer need to perform growth. You no longer need to force outcomes. Faith becomes a quiet confidence that God sees what others do not. He sees effort, obedience, humility, and trust. He sees what is being formed even when no one else notices. Walking by faith also changes how disappointment is handled. When expectations are unmet, the heart does not collapse. Instead, it pauses and remembers that God's wisdom extends beyond the moment. What feels like delay may be protection. What feels like silence may be preparation. This does not remove pain, but it reframes it. Faith allows the heart to grieve without losing hope, to wait without growing bitter, to trust without needing full understanding. At the beginning of a year, this way of living is especially important. New seasons often tempt us to measure quickly, to evaluate progress early, and to judge ourselves harshly. Walking by faith protects the heart from premature conclusions. It allows the year to unfold under God's guidance rather than human pressure. As you continue forward, consider where your faith has been tied too closely to what you can see. Ask God to help you trust His vision more than your own. What He sees is always more complete, more accurate, and more loving. Faith was never meant to be lived by sight alone. It was meant to be lived in relationship. And when the heart learns to walk this way, peace grows, hope deepens, and trust becomes steadier. Not because circumstances have changed, but because the soul has learned to rely on God's perspective instead of its own. Let's pray together. God, We come before you, aware of how often we rely on what our eyes can see. We confess that many times we have measured progress, worth, and faith by visible results. When things look unchanged, we become discouraged. When answers take time, we grow restless. Today, we bring that tendency honestly into your presence. Teach our hearts to trust what you see. You see beyond appearances. You see beyond timing. You see beyond what feels slow or hidden to us. God, help us release the need for constant evidence. Help us stop demanding signs before we trust. Teach us to believe that you are working even when circumstances look the same. We want to learn how to rest in your perspective instead of being ruled by our own. Where comparison has entered our hearts, bring freedom. Where disappointment has settled, bring hope. Where doubt has grown because we could not see progress, restore faith. God, we acknowledge that your work often begins in unseen places. You form character before you change situations. You strengthen faith before you bring fruit. Help us value what you are forming in us, even when it is quiet and unnoticed. We surrender our timelines to you. We surrender our expectations. We surrender the pressure we place on ourselves to show results. Teach us to walk by faith and not by sight. When uncertainty rises, remind us that your vision is complete. When waiting feels heavy, remind us that you are attentive. When progress feels hidden, remind us that nothing you do is ever wasted. God, anchor our hearts in your truth. Let peace guard our thoughts when appearances try to define reality. Let trust grow deeper than what we can see. Let our faith remain steady, not because circumstances are clear, but because you are faithful. As we move forward into this season, help us align our hearts with what you see. Give us patience to wait, courage to trust, and humility to follow you even when the path is not fully visible. We choose to believe that you are working wisely, lovingly, and intentionally in every detail of our lives. As we come to the end of this moment, allow your heart to remain steady and at rest. Learning to trust what God sees does not happen all at once. It is a daily choice to believe that His perspective is greater than our own, and that His work is not limited to what is visible. You may still be walking through a season where progress feels hidden. Some answers may not have come yet. Some changes may still be forming beneath the surface. That does not mean God is distant. It means He is working in ways that require trust. Walking by faith invites you to release the pressure to see everything clearly. You are not asked to understand the full picture. You are invited to trust the one who does. God's vision is never incomplete, and His timing is never careless. As you move forward, remember that what God is forming in unseen places matters deeply. Character, faith, humility, and trust are never wasted. In time, what has been shaped quietly will become evident in ways that reflect His wisdom. Continue choosing faith over appearances, trust over urgency, peace over pressure. If this time encouraged your heart, keep creating space to walk closely with God. Let His perspective guide you, even when the path feels unclear. What He sees is always good, always purposeful, and always rooted in love. May your heart remain steady as you trust Him beyond what your eyes can see.